Morning, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. Welcome to the Monday morning call. As always, this is a good time to talk about things that are going well or things that are going poorly, or ideas that you have that you can share with everybody that's something that you're doing that's working really well for you. Or if you've got things that you need help with, this would be a great time to talk about it. If you've got questions, concerns, other people have them too. So go ahead and either, if you're on a mic, raise your hand and Missy will open up that mic. Or if you're not, then go ahead and type that in and we'll address that as we move forward. So get started here, and Missy will let me know if we hear any questions. So.
Sure will.
Okay, first, the pointer today is Hartford is buying out clients. Hartford has announced it's going to offer clients with income benefit riders a cash buyout. Now, why do you think they're offering the people and their VAs with income benefit riders a cash buyout? Any idea, guys? Why do you think they're doing that? I've got a little hint here in the second sentence, which is they make up 45% of Hartford's risk portfolio. What have they figured out about these income benefit riders? Something we've been talking about for over 2 years. These income benefit riders are not actuarially sound. Yeah, there's too much risk for the portfolio. Exactly right, Dale, and they're expensive. So these things are not actuarially sound. That's why many, I don't know how, in the last year, I think 4 or 5 companies have gotten out of the business, just stopped offering income benefit riders and variable annuities. And now we see Hartford trying to buy back those income benefit riders from clients to get out of that business because it's very risky for variable annuities. Now, are income benefit riders risky for fixed index annuities? I mean, they're extremely risky for variable annuities, but are they risky for fixed index annuities? Are they, guys? No. Why? Because the way the underlying investments are set up. So variable annuities, the market can fall 50%, and because of the way the portfolios, they are invested, they have to cover that 50% income with income benefit riders. But with a fixed index annuity, the portfolio is never going to fall 50% because they're not investing in the market as a whole. So fixed index annuities are not having the problem with income benefit riders that variable annuities are. So this is not going to change. In fact, you're seeing more and more VAs just get out of this completely. So how can you utilize this, do you think, guys? How can you utilize this fact when you're meeting with clients? Is this a risk your clients should know about, that the investments that they're in are not actuarially sound? Is that something that your clients should know about, or you should sweep that under the rug? So this is something that you can share with clients as another thing that their advisor didn't tell them about, okay? So any questions on that before we move on to our topic of the day? Okay. So the disclosure meeting, we're going to talk about just in general how it's made up, but we're going to spend some time, again, talking about how to get people to tell you what you want them to say, and we'll be listening to a tape here in just a few minutes. But before we get there, I want to kind of review again what we're doing in the disclosure meeting. The disclosure meeting is set up to have the clients discover some things about their advisor. Now, when clients come in to the disclosure meeting, they believe their advisor walks on water. Does anybody disagree with that? They believe their advisor walks on water. I want you to understand that because I have so many advisors tell me, no, Mike, they wouldn't even make an appointment with me if they weren't interested in moving their money. They are not interested in moving their money. They're coming in to get a few questions answered, to maybe enhance what they're doing a little bit, but they believe they're doing just fine. They did not make the appointment to move their money. If they wanted to move their money, they would have done it long before they met you. So when they come in, they think their guy walks on water. And if you think their guy walks on water and you immediately attack their guy, what's their knee-jerk reaction going to be? If they think their guy walks on water and you immediately start attacking the guy, what's their knee-jerk reaction going to be? And believe me, I learned this the hard way. Yeah, the knee-jerk reaction is to pull back or to protect that guy, right? Vehemently, to defend him, exactly. So we're not going to attack the guy. Instead, the first set of questions in our system is designed to have them become a little disappointed. So all of a sudden they think, oh, I guess my guy doesn't walk on water. I guess there are some things that he missed. I guess there are some things that he could be doing better. But do we go for a full frontal attack with those first 5 or 6 items on our disclosure meeting? No. It's more things where they start to think, wow, I thought my guy walked on water, but there's some things he could have been doing better. I'm a little disappointed he didn't And so what we do, and Jeff uses the analogy, and I totally agree with it, it's the frog in the boiling water. If you throw a frog into boiling water, it's going to hop out. But if you put the frog in the water and then turn up the heat, we'll be able to cook him. So we're putting this guy, they think the guy walks on water, and we're going to start turning up the heat gently so they don't even realize what's happening. So they go from him walking on water to being a little disappointed. And the power of attorney is one of the things that we talk about, which is really the poster child for disappointment. Because we don't go for a full frontal attack on their guy. We just basically say, so, I mean, what would you think about me as an advisor if I didn't spend all the time that I'm spending on this? So our implication is what? They're going to say, yeah, you'd be a horrible advisor. But what are they also admitting when they say you'd be a horrible advisor if you didn't cover these things? They're also saying, well, my guy didn't cover these things, so he obviously is a horrible guy, a horrible advisor too. Now, we don't have them say that out loud, but we know that starts to run through their head. So when people ask us how to learn the disclosure meeting, the first thing we say to learn is learn the power of attorney. That's the poster child for this first part that we do, which is disappointment. And then we turn up the heat a little bit more, and we get to irritation. So then we get to the point where we start to have them tell us the guy's motive. And they start to get a little irritated with the guy, and we finally turn up the flame all the way and cook him when we get to the last portion, or the last things that we cover. And the poster child for that anger is fees. So that's what we're doing at the disclosure meeting. We're not going to cover all those things today. We're just going to cover the power of attorney through a recording. So the power of attorney, what do we want them to do? What do they need to tell us? Because we can't tell them this. They need to tell us. The first thing is why powers of attorney are good, why they are necessary, what they do, and what can happen if we don't have them, the consequences of not having a functioning power of attorney. That's the second thing we want them to tell us. The third thing we want them to tell us is, you know what, they need money during bad times. And that the fourth thing is access is more important than return. And the last thing is, we just kind of inferred here a few minutes ago, is what kind of advisor would I be if I did not pay attention to this access? So we explain to them why we're spending so much time on power of attorney, and then have them tell us that we would be horrible advisors if we didn't spend all that time on the power of attorney, which is then, again, bounced right back to their guy, because we know their guy doesn't spend this much time on powers of attorney. So I want to listen to an advisor going through this, and he does a fair job of it, but I want you to be grading him on how he's doing in the techniques that we've been talking about here the last 6 weeks or so, which is the techniques to get them to tell us instead of us telling them. So some of the techniques we're going to be looking for is let them finish my sentence, and the sentences with what, ridiculous or exaggeration type of questions, talk in a language where they can predict what you're going to say, and then the tell, retell. So any questions here before we start listening to the tape? I don't see any coming in, so we'll go ahead and start listening. So this is, he's rolling, he's just finished the will and the trust portion, and he's rolling into the power of attorney portion right now. So here we go.
Here is durable powers of attorney. And you guys do have a financial power of attorney that I read.
Yeah, as I said, that was done by a banker who was a notary. He's since retired, but he was a notary.
Can I take a quick peek at that again?
Sure. And let me find that here. It is.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. But first of all, I remember reading through this, looking through it. It's good you guys have done this. As mentioned earlier, how many people actually get this done? Very, very few people. So the fact that you've already got it done is good. And you said a bank, did you charge to do it?
No.
Well, that's all I said. I was just going to say sometimes it costs money to get these darn things done.
No, I didn't. He said, well, we probably need this. I need all check for him.
Yeah.
And he says, we'll just do it.
When you guys set this up, what are some reasons that people set up powers of attorney, specifically for financial schemes? Why do they put them together? So there's no bickering.
Well, in case of illness, too, and that type of thing.
I mean, yeah, exactly. If I walk out of this office today and I get hit by a bus.
So as he Is he, so far, doing a pretty good job? When he asked a question and they gave him an answer, did he give them that little pat on the back we talk about, that when they say something, we say, yeah, that's exactly right, which turns our question after question after question after question into a more conversational piece? Does this sound conversational so far? Or does it sound like he's drilling them? What do you think, guys? Conversational, or he's drilling them? Are they going to be looking at him with the stink guy saying, what's your point? Why are you asking me all these questions at this point? Or is he doing a good job of keeping conversational? He's doing a very good job of keeping it conversational. So there we go.
Get killed. They've done everything. They put me in the ground now. Once I'm in the ground, does my family really need a power of attorney for me at that point?
Probably. Everything's so legal, and
But once I'm dead,
Okay, so now what did he do, though? So he said, well, you know, if I walk across the street and I'm hit by the proverbial bus and I get put in the ground, does my family need a power of attorney? And she said, what? Well, no, or what she said, oh, yes, I guess they would, she said. And what's he say? I'll play it again for you guys.
specifically for financial speed. Why do they put them together?
So there's no bickering.
well, in case of illness too, and that type of thing.
I mean, yeah, exactly. If I walk out of this office today and I get hit by a bus, get killed, they've done everything. They put me in the ground now. Once I'm in the ground, does my family really need a power of attorney for me at that point?
Probably. Everything's so legal, and
But once I'm dead,
Okay, so what do you do there, guys? You need to be able to defend or identify these things. What did he do there? She gave him an answer, and what did he do? Do I need to play it again? Did not get on side. Exactly, Steve. He disagreed with her. Yeah, but he told her she was what? Wrong. Do we ever tell a client that they're wrong? No. So what's a better way to do that? So I'm going to go back here and play it again, and then let's figure out a better way to do that. Because we're not going to obviously tell her that she's right, but is there a way to get around this without telling her that she's wrong? Yes, there is. There always is. And remember, the reason that we're doing this, let me ask you, why are we not telling, why do we never want to tell the client that they're wrong? Even if they're wrong, why do we not want to tell them that they're wrong? Think about this, guys. Why do you never want to tell your wife that she's wrong, even if she's wrong? And this is no different. This is a relationship just like you have with your wife. It's confrontational, exactly. And when we get confrontational, what happens to our relationship? It goes south really quick. So let's listen to this again. And let's examine. Maybe there's a better way for us to soften the blow that she's wrong.
office today and I get hit by a bus, get killed. They've done everything. They put me in the ground now. Once I'm in the ground, does my family really need a power of attorney for me at that point?
Probably. Everything's so legal, and
But once I'm dead,
She said probably, because everything's so legal. I said, yeah, I mean, everything is so legal. You need all sorts of paperwork now. I mean, anytime something happens to you, paperwork. Everything's legal. The legal system is really moved into everything that we do. So you're absolutely right. So when we think about there's different types of paperwork. We just got to talking about wills and trusts. And when do we use wills and trusts? Well, after you die. Yeah, and when I got hit by that bus and I died, what paperwork would we use then? Well, the wills and the trusts. So would I have at that point told her she's wrong at all? Or would she have thought, oh yeah, I'm getting this. I'm smart if I do it that way? So did I let her continue down the road of thinking wrong, or did I help her in a non-threatening way come to her own conclusion about what happens when I die without being confrontational? So that took me 15 seconds. I admit it's much easier to say, no, you're wrong. You need this document instead. That takes about, 3 or 4 seconds, and I spent 15 seconds instead. Why would I invest the 15 seconds to do it that way? because I don't want to get into a situation where she help clarify and redirect, Rick. Exactly right. I never want to get into a situation where I'm telling the client that they're wrong. Does that make sense, everybody?
Gone and buried. Well, if I'm dead and gone, what day I go through? It goes through my what?
So you will.
Well, I will, for when I'm dead. So if I'm dead, I really don't need a power of attorney. When I die, what?
See, and then again, he didn't just tell her she was wrong once. He what? Continually told her that she was wrong for about 10 seconds. And how is she feeling at this point? You don't put the client in that situation. But the advisor at this point is thinking, what? I'm just helping her. I'm educating her. That's a good thing, right? Well, there's ways to educate that you don't have to tell them they're wrong.
Takes precedence.
The will.
The will does. Or if I walk out of the office here today and I get lucky and jump out of the way of the bus, I just break my leg, but I'm still able to go to work. I'm still mentally competent and all these kinds of things. I can still do my job. And I make decisions for myself. Does my family really need a power of attorney for me when I can do all of those things?
Probably not at that time.
So if it's not when I can think for myself and it's not when I'm dead, where does the power of attorney really come into play?
But, I mean, is this guy doing a very good job of making a lot of statements or asking a lot of questions? Would you give him a scale of 1 to 10, where would you give him for asking questions instead of telling people things? On a scale of 1 to 10. Well, again, a lot of people saying that he's making a lot of statements, but you know what? I'm going to go back and play this again. Listen to how many questions he's asking. Yeah, I'd say, Dale, you're closer to a 7. That's what I would agree with. Because you know what? Jeff, when you listen to tapes, how well is this guy doing compared to the average guy that you listen to on the tapes?
Oh, he's doing really well.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? He's asking a lot of questions. So I'm not going to interrupt, guys. I'm going to go back to where we started, and I want you to listen to it. Because a lot of you guys are saying, no, he's making tons of statements. And I want you to listen again. This guy is not doing that. He's asking a ton of questions. Could he be doing it better? Yeah, that's why Dale says a 7, and I would agree a 7. It's not a 10. But as compared to most guys I listen to, this guy is asking 5 times as many questions as I hear most advisors asking. So I'm going to go back and we're going to start here at, if I can find it, and I'm going to just play 1 minute so you can actually hear how many questions he asked. He's doing a good job. Could he be doing better? Yeah, but as compared to what I see with most guys, he's doing a fantastic job. Here we go.
Everything's so legal and...
But once I'm dead and gone and buried, well, if I'm dead and gone, what day I go through? It goes through my what?
Oh, I didn't go back far enough. Sorry.
But I will.
Essentially tired. But he wasn't notary.
Can I take a quick peek at that again?
Yeah, sure. And let me find that one. It is.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, I remember reading through this, looking through it. It's good you guys have done this. I've mentioned earlier how many people actually get this done. Very, very few people. So the fact that you've already got it done is good. And instead of banking, do you charge to do it?
No.
That's all right, then. I was just going to say sometimes it costs money to get these darn things done.
No, I didn't. He said, well, we probably need this. I mean, he's all set for him.
Yeah.
And he says, we'll just do it.
When you guys set this up, what are some reasons that people set up powers of attorney, for specifically for financial people? Why do they put them together? So there's no bickering.
Well, in case of illness, too, and that type of thing.
I mean, yeah, exactly. If I walk out of this office today and I get hit by a bus, get killed, they've done everything. They put me in the ground now. Once I'm in the ground, does my family really need a power of attorney for me at that point?
Probably. Everything's so legal and...
But once I'm dead and gone and buried, well, if I'm dead and gone, what day I go through? It goes through my what?
So you will.
Well, I will, for when I'm dead. So if I'm dead, I really don't need a power of attorney. When I die, what takes precedence?
The will.
The will does. Or if I walk out of the office here today and I get lucky and jump out of the way of the bus, I just break my leg, but I'm still able to go to work. I'm still mentally competent and all these kinds of things. I can still do my job. And I make decisions for myself. Does my family really need a power of attorney for me when I can do all of those things?
Probably not at that time.
So we're into this a minute and 15 seconds, he's asked 11 questions. Guys, do you think you ask 11 questions every minute during your meetings, or every minute and 15 seconds? So how is this guy, I'm going to ask again, how do you think this guy's doing? Could he be doing it better? Yes. But 11 questions in a minute and 15 seconds, now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's he doing? He's doing well, exactly. So at this point, it still sounds very conversational, but yet he's worked a lot of questions in there, and he's done let them finish my sentences. He's used that. He's ended sentences with what. He hasn't done ridiculous or exaggeration yet, but he's talking in a language where they can predict what he's going to say, and he's letting them fit in. So he's doing a very, very good job. Could he do better? Yeah, I could do better. Everybody could do better, but he's not telling them all these things. He's letting them tell him. I mean, 11 questions in a minute, 15 seconds, I classify that as very, very good. So here we go.
So if it's not when I can think for myself and it's not when I'm dead, where does the power of attorney really come into play? When what? When I...
See, and he did a very good job here. This is a great example of the multiple choice type question, or the fill in the blank type question. He says, so if the power of attorney is not for when I'm okay and not for when I'm dead, it's for what? So he's only left one thing. It could be if I'm okay, if I'm not okay and I'm not dead, there's only one thing. I'm sorry. If I am okay and I'm not dead, there's only one other reason it could be applied. So he very good use of questions here, using the multiple choice or fill in the blank. Any questions on the point I'm making there, guys? Okay.
When you can't think for yourself.
Exactly, when I'm incapacitated. Okay.
And again, so she says, well, when you can't make your own decision, she goes, exactly, when I'm incapacitated. Do you see how he's patting her on the back mentally, congratulating her on when she answers questions right? That turns it very conversational. That's why he's been able to ask 11 questions. And when a lot of you guys are saying, no, he's not, he's making all these statements, he's scoring very low, I don't blame you for doing that or saying that or missing that, because he's done such a good job of making it conversational. It sounds like he's making a lot of statements. But he wasn't. As we went back and listened to it again, 11 questions, that's a lot. So here we go.
And that's what it's for. I mean, I don't know if you're like me or not. When do you think people need to get their hands on their money the most? When the things are just singing along?
But I will go back here, and there's a couple here. Who are we hearing speak? Her. I've heard the guy one time. When you're doing this, you have to make sure one person's getting it or everybody's getting it. Everybody. Now, I will also bring up as far as asking questions, like I said, I think he's doing very well. But the point of that part of the script is for them to tell us how important having a power of attorney is and the consequences of not having a power of attorney. How has he done on that so far? So as far as asking questions, I think he's done a really good job. But as far as making sure that they get the point of how important a power of attorney is and the consequences of not having a power of attorney, how's he done on that so far? Because that's the story. The story is about getting them to understand the importance of a power of attorney and the importance of the consequences if you don't have one. Needs to reinforce. I would absolutely agree with you, Rick. Why do I think that this has been weak so far as the point? Again, asking questions, very, very good. But as far as the point, weak. What's he missing here, guys? I want to see if you guys can realize what he's missing here. It's something that advisors do all the time. What he just did is what I see advisors do all the time, because what I want you to do is really uncomfortable, not for all advisors, but for an awful lot of advisors. What did he fail to incorporate in this story? First of all, was there a little movie going on in their head? Or was he just asking a lot of questions? Did he actually paint this out so we could actually see him? Now, one thing he did do is he used himself instead of the client. So he said, what if I'm walking across the street? But was it more a series of questions, or did he help them paint out a picture, a movie of what actually happened? Would you say it was more questions or more like a movie, that you could actually see all these things happening in Technicolor? Did not paint a picture. Exactly, Bill. And the problem with not painting a picture is what? There is no emotions. It's an intellectual discussion. And also, if you don't paint a picture, it can be facts are easily forgotten. Can we agree that facts are easily forgotten? So that's why we don't want to talk in facts. But can you remember stories for years? There are probably stories, guys, that happened 50 years ago that you can still tell them. You still remember what happened with stories. We remember stories. Stories are emotional. So Jeff, you be the client for a second.
Okay.
You got your mic turned back? Okay. So I'm going to say, so Jeff, let's say that I'm run over by the proverbial bus.
Okay.
So I'm walking down the street, I step out of the curb, I get run over by the proverbial bus, and boom, get smacked. Now there's three things could have happened to me. What are some of the things that could have happened to me, Jeff?
You could have been killed.
I might have been killed. I might have been killed, and if I'm killed, we just got done talking about a certain document I need. What's that? What document is that?
Your will.
Yeah, I'd need my will because I'm dead. So when I'm dead, I need my will. Now, that's one thing that could happen. What's the other kind of things that could happen to me?
Well,
what
you
if I'm
could
really lucky?
Well, then if you're really lucky, you're probably not hurt that bad.
Yeah, I get up, dust myself off, and say, woo, had my guardian angel looking after me, right?
Right.
But what's the third thing that could happen? If I don't die, and if I don't just aren't lucky enough to get up, brush myself off, and walk away, what's the other thing that could happen?
Well, you could be seriously hurt.
Seriously hurt. And when I'm seriously hurt, they're going to take me to where?
Well, the hospital.
The hospital. So I'm in the hospital. I've got all these tubes running into me and the respirator on, and I'm totally unconscious. And my wife walks in. What do you think is going through her head when she walks in?
Well, she's probably worried if you're going to be okay.
Yeah, she's going to be worried if I'm okay. And then she's going to be worried that if I am okay, how long it's going to take me to what?
How long is it going to take you to get fully recovered?
Fully recovered. And then she starts to even think, geez, I wonder what my responsibilities are going to be due to take care of.
Yeah,
what?
Absolutely. Well,
all those things, right? I mean,
right.
What kind of things might she have to do for me going forward?
I don't know, probably
I'm really incapacitated. What kind of things would she might have to do for me?
just help you with everything, I would imagine.
Help me with everything. Feeding,
Right?
showering, dressing. I mean, do you think that might eventually start running through her head?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, and then you also say, so she's becoming a little bit stressed at this point.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
And you think a little stressed or a what stressed?
I think she'd be a lot stressed.
A lot stressed. And then, of course, because the world revolves around me, the earth stops when I'm hurt, doesn't it?
Well, no. I mean, life goes on.
Life does go on. Does the bank say, oh, you know what? Mike's wife is really having a hard time here with everything that's been happening. We should just stop sending bills to her.
No, they're not going to do that.
And the fact that I was in an accident, the bills might actually be doing what?
They might be piling up.
Might be piling up. So then she's wondering, how am I going to pay for this? Because guess where most of the money is? I mean, I worked my whole life. She was a stay-at-home mom, which is also working probably harder than I did. But because I didn't pay her very well for being a stay-at-home mom, and my job paid me a lot, guess where all of our retirement funds are in?
Well, probably your IRA or 401k or something like that.
Yeah, you're right, my IRA and 401k. And whose name is on that?
Yours, for sure.
Yeah, my name. I mean, it should be both of ours because she helped me earn, but the way the law works is only my name is on it, right?
Right.
So if she wants to get money out of it, how does she get money out of it if my name's on it?
Well, she's got that power of attorney, I guess.
She has the power of attorney. Because if she didn't have a power of attorney and she called up and said, hey, I need some of Mike's money, what would they tell her?
I mean, you can't have it. It's not in your name.
Just ridiculous, isn't it? But is
Right.
that what they would tell her?
Yeah, oh, I'm sure they would.
Now what's happening to her stress level?
Oh, now it's going way up.
Way up, right? So,
Right.
but because she had the power of attorney, she can just give them that piece of paper, and what will they do?
Well, they'll let her access the account. They'll let her take money out.
Yeah. Yep. You know, and when I've looked at things, looked at life, Jeff, you know when I find out you need money?
Probably.
You know, when I was young, guess what? And had no money, that's when my car would break how often?
A lot.
And that's when my furnace would break how often?
A lot.
See, what I find, when you don't have money, that's
Yeah.
when you're
That's when you
when
need
things
it.
happen, right? Yeah, and when you have a lot of money, do those things
Yeah,
seem to ever happen?
No, not at all.
No. So, you know what? Powers of attorney helps us get money when we need it most or when we don't need it at all?
No, when you need it the most.
Yeah, during good times, or does it help us during the bad times?
During the bad times.
Yeah, I mean, so if we don't have that power of attorney, what happens to everybody's stress level?
It goes way, way up.
Yeah, so congratulations. So guys, now, did I paint a picture in Jeff's head of what could happen if we, first of all, the importance of a power of attorney, the consequences if you don't have a power of attorney? Was it a little bit more emotional than just going through the facts of how a power of attorney works? Why do I say my wife walks in and she sees a bunch of tubes and I'm on a respirator? Can you see that in your head? Is that a little movie going on in your head? So you need to paint a story. You need to get that emotion going. Exactly right. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and turn this back on.
All going great, everything's, flowers and roses, or when things start to
fall apart.
Yeah. Exactly. So if I were to ask you guys on this power of attorney thing, if I were to give you a choice between, I don't know, $1 million account or a $500,000 account, which one do you think you'd pick?
Probably the million if we're not stupid.
Okay. But if I added to it, with the $1 million account, you can't get your hands on it when you most need it. With a $500,000 account, you can get your hands on it whenever necessary. Good times, bad times, whenever. Then which account do you think you pick?
Well, probably the house. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you can.
Okay, she said, I don't know. That's a good clue of what he's doing wrong here. Anybody have an idea of what he's doing wrong here? He's asking questions, but what's he doing wrong? Anybody? He asked 2 questions where he should have asked how many questions? He was not taking, see, she was like, I don't know. So I'm going to go back and play this again, and I want you to listen to how many questions he asked to get to this point.
When you most need it. Like me and I, when do you think people need to get their hands on their money the most? When things are just singing along, going great, everything's, flowers and roses, or when things start to
fall apart.
Yeah. Exactly. So if I were to ask you guys.
Wait, before we do that, did you hear what he did there? That was an example of what? He let her end the sentence for him. That was an excellent job of that. But now he's going to get into where he's describing, he's going through the part of the script where we talk about that having access to our money is more important than return. Having access to our money is more important than return, but listen to how many questions he asked to get her to this point.
On this power of attorney thing, if I were to give you a choice between, I don't know, $1 million account or a $500,000 account, which one do you think you'd pick?
Probably the million if we're not stupid.
Okay. But if I added to it, with a $1 million account, you can't get your hands on it when you most need it. With a $500,000 account, you can get your hands on it whenever necessary. Good times, bad times, whenever. Then which account do you think you pick?
Probably the house. I don't know.
See, he's going way too fast. So, Jeff, are you still on?
Yep, I'm here.
So that was 2 questions he took to get there. Now watch how many questions I'm going to ask to get there. I say, so Jeff, I've got kind of a silly question for you. Let's say that I had a $10,000 account and I grew it for my client to $100,000. How would do you think my client would like that?
Oh, yeah, I think they'd be real happy.
Yeah, and why would they like that?
Because that's a lot of money. You did a good job
That's a
growing
lot.
their money.
He did a good job growing their money. What if I took $10,000 and grew it to $50,000 instead?
Not as good, but probably still okay.
Still pretty, I mean, 10,000 to 50,000? Is
Yeah, that's good.
that a good return or a bad return?
That's good.
Yeah, but not as good as what?
Not as good as the 100,000.
Yeah, not as good as 100. If we had our druthers, we'd much rather have the 100, right?
Right.
Right. So, but let me put a little twist on this. What if we said instead, the 100, when we grow the $10,000 to $100,000, here's the catch. You can have that money anytime you want it, Jeff, except if you need it. So if things start to turn south on you and you get into a pickle and you actually need the money, then I'm not going to give it to you. Now what are you thinking about that account?
Thinking, why can't you get it when you need it?
Yeah. Would you be happy with it?
No, I wouldn't.
No. No. Let's say on the other hand, the account that grew from $10,000 to $50,000, you could have that anytime you need it. Good times, bad times, you call us up, boom, we send it right to you. Now what are you thinking about that account?
I think that's good.
Yeah. So which account now would you want? The $100,000 you can only get money when you don't need it, but you can't get it when you do need it, or the $50,000 you can get it anytime you want it? Which account do you want?
I'd probably go with the 50,000.
Probably?
Yeah, I'd do the 50.
Yeah, and but that's kind of confusing because just a minute ago you told me to go for the $100,000 account.
Yeah, but if you can't get to it, then it's no good. I mean, you got to be able to get to it for it to be any of use to you.
You're exactly right, because does it really matter how high a return you get if you can? What if I told you I'm going to make you 100% a year, you just can never get that money?
Yeah, then doesn't help.
No. So rates of return is important, but what's more important?
Well, being able to get to the money.
Yeah, because when push comes to shove, yes, we want good rates of return, but more importantly, we better get that money when we need it most, or when we don't need it at all, or at all times.
At all times.
At all times. So the reason I bring that, okay, so now is Jeff much clearer? How many questions did I ask compared to 2? Is Jeff much clearer now on the point I'm having him understand, which is what? Return is important, but what's more important? Access. And guys, why are we making that point? Because the power of attorney is all about access, right? It's all about access. If an advisor gets them a huge rate of return, but they don't get it when they can't get the money when they need it most, has the advisor done them a favor or a disservice? See, that's the direction we're moving. But this gentleman is, again, as advisors, we tend to ask way too many questions or way too few questions. See, he knows what's going on in his head, but they don't know what's going on in his head. So you need to baby step them through. You need to baby step them through. So that's Eric hits it right on the head. He says you didn't just get the client to tell you the right answer. You got them to explain to you why it was the best answer. So that's exactly, Eric. That's right on target with what we're doing there. So that's why she's getting a little confused. And if she's confused, do I have any clue where her husband is at this point? Or is he in his head golfing for all I know? You got to get them both involved. Okay? So here we go.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't use it, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, if you can't get your hands on it.
But push comes to shove, you know how he knows he did enough? At least for her, how does he know he did enough? Because I'm here saying, oh, he did it wrong, he did it wrong, he did it wrong. But push comes to shove, guess what we find out? He did it wrong or he did it right? He did it right, exactly, Bill. Because she said what? There's no sense of getting a good rate of return if you can't get it when you need it. So even though I said that he didn't do it right, he did it right enough because good enough, Rick, exactly. She still said, well, you can't get the money when you need it most. So that's how you know you've gone far enough. So does he have to circle back? No. I'd say you have to circle back for the husband, but he certainly doesn't have to circle back for her because she gets it.
What's that going to do for you, right? And that's why I want to bring this up. Guys, the reason I use that as an example is, it's nice to have $1 million. That'd be nice, right?
Sure.
And we all want to make a ton of money. And you want to see growth.
Hey, Jeff, can you answer this question for me? And this is probably for everybody.
What's the question?
So the question that I hate, which is, what if they have a good power of attorney and you don't find anything wrong with it, Jeff?
Well, there's a lot of things that could be wrong with the power of attorney, and if you look on the website, there's a guide there that tells you the things to look for in a power of attorney, but in theory, a power of attorney can never be complete. There are always holes in any power of attorney. It's a document of what-ifs, and if you try to plug every hole and plug every what-if, the thing would be about 3,000 pages long. But if you look at a power of attorney, it's usually 1 page, 1.5 at most. So you know there are scenarios where it won't work. And that's what we're pointing out. There are things in powers of attorney. There are situations that can come up that would invalidate any power of attorney. There are situations where their power of attorney will work. I guarantee you there are situations where their power of attorney won't work. And I promise you, if they came in and told you they had a power of attorney, they'd tell you, I'm covered in any situation. And guys, that is absolutely not true. In fact, if you look at that guide, there are 3 things that void probably 90% of all powers of attorney. There are 3 situations that are actually quite common, that are actually quite probable to come up that would void all powers of attorney. One would be the date. Most financial institutions won't accept them if they're more than 3 years old, so that automatically eliminates a lot of powers of attorney.
And we're even, Jeff, on that note, seeing financial institutions invalidating them at 60 days and 3 months, depending on the institution. So yeah, 3 years is without a doubt, but now you've got institutions invalidating them even in the shorter periods of time. So that's the one thing. So go ahead.
The other thing is, because these are used 99% of the time to take money out of an account and not put money in, the bank or the brokerage has a lot of liability if they're handing money over to somebody who doesn't have their name on the account. So to limit that liability, what they've gone to is said, well, you have to mention this account by name in your power of attorney. That, or you have to use our power of attorney that does mention the account by name. If it doesn't mention the account by name, then we're just going to assume by default that this account isn't included in that power of attorney. Virtually all banks, insurance companies too. So you'd be surprised how many people, if their name isn't on an annuity, can't get their money out of that annuity, or their spouse can't if their name isn't on it, if they don't have the language of that insurance company in that power of attorney. Same thing with brokerages. That eliminates a ton of powers of attorney. And then the gifting language would be the last. Most gifting language is very broad to prevent fraud. So they'll say something like, you can make gifts if for any reason that you want. The only thing you can't do is make gifts to yourself. That's to prevent fraud. That's to prevent somebody from saying, well, I'm just going to give the money to myself and then make off with it and then move to South America with all this money. The problem with that is husband and wife. A wife not being able to gift to herself could find herself in a lot of problems. She could go and call the IRA company and they would say, well, your name's not on the account, we can't give you money. And she would say, but I have this power of attorney. And they'd say, oh, that's different, let us see it. Well, a few problems. One, it's more than 3 years old. 2, it doesn't have language of our account. But even if it had those things, it says right here we can't give the money to you. You can't gift to yourself. You can't give money to yourself, so we can't cut you a check or anything like that. And people aren't aware of those problems, so I promise you 99.9% of powers of attorney are dealing with all 3 of those things, or at least one of the 3.
In 12 years of looking at thousands of powers of attorney, I've yet to find a power of attorney that would deal with all circumstances. So then the question is, well, then how do you get a great power of attorney? There is no such thing as a perfect power of attorney. That's the importance of the advisor that understands powers of attorney, because there is no perfect power of attorney. It cannot exist, because a power of attorney that addresses one situation completely circumnavigates around another or prevents another situation from occurring. So it's impossible to have a perfect power of attorney. The only perfect power of attorney is a power of attorney that has an advisor that understands how power of attorneys work, working with clients, so they can help them navigate through the difficulties of powers of attorney. And he'll recognize things that it's happening in a client's life where he says, oh my gosh, we need to do this, we need to adjust this, we need to change this on the power of attorney. So the only perfect power of attorney is a power of attorney that has an advisor working with the client that will help them navigate the problems that all 100% of powers of attorney have. So
and just
here.
Just a quick thing to add, Mike, before you go on. A couple of people are asking, where is that guide that Jeff is talking about? You can find it on the website underneath the disclosure meeting. And then part 3 is actually the power of attorney. And within that power of attorney part 3 section, you'll see it's just called the Durable Power of Attorney Guide for Agent Use Only. Thanks.
Super. Okay, here we go.
Return. Rate of return is important, isn't it? But guys, if I sat here today and just talked to you about the rate of return of things, investments, and that sort of thing, without making sure that you could get your hands on the money when you most needed it, and making sure that that was done perfectly, would I really be doing my job, do you think?
Absolutely not.
And that's what concerns me. Looking at things, you do have a power of attorney.
So, again, she did it, and she's answering the question. So she said, would I be doing my job as an advisor if I wasn't looking at these things? So, but he asked it more as a factual question. What I want him to do is paint a little picture in her head. Instead of just saying, because he got the right answer, but I think he's getting factual answers and not gut answers. And I want that gut answer, and the only way to get that is by painting a picture. So I'd rather him have said, so, you know, a lot of clients ask me, why are you spending all this time on the power of attorney? I mean, isn't that what attorneys are supposed to do? And I really like when they ask me that question, because, you know, here's the thing. The attorneys make them up, but you know who really is affected? I mean, what do powers of attorney cover? Do they cover legal matters? Yeah, they do, but you know what? More than legal matters, what does it cover? Where, when, and where you can get what? Access to what? Well, the money. Yeah, so, I mean, doesn't it make sense that any advisor, I mean, what does an advisor take care of? Well, the money. So if an advisor is not making sure that clients can get the money when they need it most, and how do they get the money when they need it most? What document? The power of attorney. So if the advisor isn't looking at power of attorney backwards and forwards, ups and down, making sure he understands exactly what's going on, if he's not looking at that on a regular basis, does he know if the money can be accessed when his clients need it the most? Oh, no. So really, push comes to shove, is it really the attorney's problem or is it the advisor's problem? Well, it's the advisor's problem. Yeah, and so if the advisor's not looking at this, I mean, what would you think about me as an advisor? What if I got a client, 30% rate of return every single year, and then when they called me for the money, I said, oh, I'm sorry, can't get at it. What do you think you're going to think about me? Well, that you're not very good. Yeah, well, what if I said, well, it's not my fault, it's the power of attorney's fault? Is that going to be a good excuse for you? Well, no, it's not going to be an excuse. So really, as an advisor, I better darn well be sure that what's in order. Well, our power of attorney is in order. And if I'm not, what kind of advisor would I be? Well, a really crappy one. So now, are they 100% completely clear about the fact that any advisor who's not looking at it on a regular basis, doesn't know what's going on? So I asked how many questions so they could visualize this versus just saying, so if I'm not taking care of this stuff, am I doing my job? Well, no, you're not. Is there a difference between those two ways of approaching this? See, I want not to be somewhat sure. I want to be 150% sure that they're getting my point here. Does that make sense? I ask question after question after question because I want them to see it in their head. I want them to say it out loud. And I like what Eric said earlier, that the client just didn't tell me the right answer. They actually explained to me why it's the right answer. Does that make sense? And I've had a couple of people asking, why is the power of attorney, that question, why do I hate the question about powers of attorney? It's just because over 12 years, it's a good question, and we've been asked that over and over and over. And I can't tell you how many times somebody's told me, and Jeff, have you heard this? That when they're going to the disclosure meeting, they say, "Well, I didn't get the power of attorney because the clients told me that it was in good order. They just done it about 3 months ago, so I didn't bother getting the power of attorney."
Yeah, you can't skip over it. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I mean, you can't skip over it. Just because they say that doesn't
mean how do you know it's in good order? And what do they say? Well, the client told me it was.
Yeah,
so guys,
that's exactly right. We don't. I mean, if that logic worked, then we wouldn't talk about anything. Our titling, it's fine. Our beneficiaries, we had them set up fine. Our fees, we're not paying any. We're not taking a lot of risk. We're not overweighted. We're not, guys. you go through everything.
So it's a good, actually it's a hated question, but it's not that it's a bad question. It's actually a good question because you need to understand that 100% of power of attorney are wrong, and that helps. I mean, you need to collect that for every single client because it's a major part of the disclosure meeting. It's the first place where we can attack the advisor without actually mentioning the advisor. And if we don't mention the advisor, can they defend their advisor? Because remember, when I'm asking, what kind of advisor would I be if I didn't do these things, who am I not mentioning? Him. But who? But it isn't. So can they really come out and start defending their guy right then? No. They can't defend their guy. I mean, all the questions are about me and how bad I would be. But it's a way for us to start sticking our big toe in the water or to turn up that heat on the frog without giving them the ability to what? To defend their guy. It's a really important part. It's one of the disclosure meetings. There's 3 scripts you need to nail. And when I say scripts, you don't need to nail them word for word, but you need to nail the points we're making there. You need to make sure the client tells you in their own words why, the why of the points, and that is the power of attorney, the beneficiaries, and the fees. Okay, you need to be able to do those things. So here we go.
Because it was written, some time ago.
Yes, it was.
Did they ever change laws? And I think that what is in here will work, and there's actually some new things that this doesn't include in it, in which case, if something happened, you wouldn't be able to get your hands on money when you most needed it. Mm-hmm. Would that cause a problem, you think?
That's
No problem, yeah. Okay, so a little problem or a big problem, potentially?
Well, probably a big problem, depending on what you needed. But
and so regarding that, I mean, is that something you guys want to look into to make sure we get that done right?
I think we should, yes.
Okay, and then all that is paperwork.
Yes.
But, we'd all like to make a ton of money, but like you said, what good is it when we make a ton of money if my kids or my spouse can't get their hands money where they most need it? And that's all it is. So,
yeah, the only, again, he summarized for them instead of having them summarize for him. But again, overall, would you say that he got what he wanted? So there's lots of things in there that he could have done so much better, but in the end, did he get exactly what he needed? Do you think or not? I'd say that he got what he needed, that their power of attorney needs to be updated. But again, I would go back to, I'm not sure if in their heads that they know that their guy should have been doing these things, but you can't really do that at this point because you don't want to mention the guy's name. So that's why I spend I really work it into the wounds when I talk about, so people ask me why I need to look at the power of attorney and go through all this stuff. I spend a ton of time there so they really start to see a picture in their head of what their guy should have been doing. I paint the picture like I'm doing that. If I wasn't, the reason I spend all this time on it, and people say, why are you spending time on it when it's really the attorney's job? I mean, the reason I go into it in so much depth, so they're painting a picture of me actually doing all these things, and then they think, my guy didn't do all those things that Mike's talking about. That's why I paint a really bright and technicolor picture of why I spend so much time as an advisor going over that power of attorney. So they have a black and white comparison of me doing all these things and their guy not doing all those things without me having to mention the guy's name. But at least they did get to the point where they know they need to update that power of attorney. Now, the one question that I do get a lot of times from advisors saying, well, yeah, but when they ask you how they fix that power of attorney, how do you answer that? Well, remember, you want to preempt that. You want to overcome objections before they even come up. So I'm not even going to allow them, and this is where you could improve as well. So it worked out perfectly for him. It worked out perfect. That's the nice thing about this is you can do it 70% right, and it will still work out 90% of the time. And that's what happened here. He did it 70% right, and it worked out for him. It was perfect. But I don't want to put things at the chance. So I know they're going to ask, well, what in there needs to be changed? What do I have to change? I don't want them to ask that. So what I'll say is, well, that's what concerns me, because when I did a precursory view, when I did an overview of your power of attorney, again, I want to go through it line by line, but just in a cursory overview of your power of attorney, we found a couple of things in there where you would not be able to get your money when they need it most. So we're going to want to go through line and line and find all those things so we can get them all fixed at one time. But just during a cursory review, we've already found a couple of things in there that need to be fixed without, that would not allow you to get money when you need it most. So I'm going to put down a little note here that we need to look at that. So the next thing I need to go to, so what have I done there? If they try to nail me and say, what exactly is that? I can say, well, I've just done a cursory review. I'm going to want to make sure that I go through everything so we don't miss anything, because there's no sense fixing one thing. We might as well fix it all at the same time. That way we don't miss anything. So absolutely I'm going to cover that backwards and forwards, but you need to give me some time to go through the thing from front to back. Now, I do that before they ask. If I do that if I just say the same thing afterwards, it sounds like I'm being what? If they ask, well, what is that thing? What's that thing that's missing? And I go through this whole dog and pony show. You know, I've just done a cursory review. I sound like I'm being what? Defensive. But if you do it before they ask the question, you sound completely rational. You sound completely reasonable when you do it before they ask that. But if you wait till after they ask that, then you're going to sound defensive. And yeah, Bill points out, you haven't given them ammo to go back to their guy. So you don't want to tell them what the problem is. If you tell them what the problem is, then go back and fix it. And I've heard guys do this before. I've heard guys say, well, the one thing that's wrong is you need to get this thing updated. It needs to be updated at least every 6 months. Why would you not do that at this meeting, guys? Why would you not tell them what's wrong with the power of attorney at this meeting? If you tell them what's wrong with the power of attorney, what can they do with that information? Fix it. So we tell them that it's broke, or that we have them tell us that it's broke. We have them tell us that it's the consequences of that, but we're not going to tell them what actually needs to be done to fix it. We fix it when they come on board, and when they come on board is when they sign the documents to move the money. Then we fix things, and only then. You got to get out of the mentality is, if I show them how smart I am, if I show them how smart I am, if I show them how smart I am, they're going to move to me, because they don't. They just take all the stuff you give them and do the easiest thing possible, which is to go back to their current guy. Does that make sense? Excellent. So was this a worthwhile call? I mean, do you like these tape reviews where you're kind of hearing how guys handle it and then see what what they're doing right and seeing what they're doing could be doing better? Is this boring? Because we've done 2 or 3 of these in the last 6 weeks. I'm wondering, is this wearing on you? You don't think this is very helpful, or do you like these tape reviews? So let's get some feedback on that so I can see. Okay, I'm getting great. Excellent. Okay, so we'll continue with those at least like every other week or something like that, just to constantly reinforce the kind of things that we'd like to see you be doing at your meetings. So I appreciate very much. I hope you all have a wonderful, and your families have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and be safe out there, and we will talk to you next Monday. Take care, everybody.